Hi, this is Christine at the Stage Nature Center. We will be getting started in just a moment with our live Facebook program about Michigan's semi-aquatic mammals. So give us just a second and we'll get started in just a moment. Hello again, this is Christina with the Stage Nature Center. I see that some of you are checking in. I'll be getting started in just a moment here. Just hold for just a minute and we'll get started very soon. All right. All right. So hello, this is Christina with the Stage Nature Center here in Troy, Michigan. I'm going to give it just a second here because I'm not sure if the camera is connecting. Okay, there it goes. It looks like it's connected now. Okay. Hello, everyone. Again, this is Christina with the Stage Nature Center here in Troy, Michigan. I'm excited to do another program with you guys today here live from the Stage Nature Center. And today we're going to be talking about semi-aquatic mammals that we can see here in Michigan and the ones that we can see here on the nature preserve. Just to give you a heads up on a couple things, the building is still closed currently. We, as of right now, will be reopening June 16th, but check our website, stagenaturecenter.org, and our Facebook page for updates to see if that date will change at all. And right now our programs are canceled through that time, through June 16th. If we have any other program cancellations, we'll let you know. Unfortunately, we have decided to cancel our summer camps because we feel that due to the coronavirus, it would be difficult for us to ensure the safety and health of everyone involved in that. So we are possibly looking at some virtual summer camps. We're not quite sure yet if we're going to be, if we'll be doing that, if there's enough interest from people to do that. So keep your eyes out on our website and on our Facebook for announcements on that. In the meantime, I'm excited to get to do these live Facebook programs with you all. So it's great to see you back again if you've joined us before, or welcome if this is your first time joining us. I'm attempting to watch the comments on another device here, but unfortunately, I think I'm in a different part of the building from where I've done this sometimes, and the connection is not so good. So I don't think I'm getting live updates on comments that are coming through. But if I do see questions coming through, please please put your questions in the comments, and if I do see them coming through, I will do my best to answer them during the presentation. If I don't get to answer them right now during the live presentation, then I'll go back through them at the end after the live presentation is done, and I will answer your questions. So, so please feel free to put your comments and questions in there. It was nice to see some of you this past Saturday. We had our native plant sale curbside pickup. We moved it to online pre-order and curbside pickup this year to minimize contact. So I saw quite a few of you this past Saturday as you were coming to pick up plants or as you were coming to visit the trails, because it was a beautiful day this past Saturday. And my sunburn has finally gone away a little bit. So it was great to see you guys out here, and it was nice to be able to talk to you. And so the trails are still open. We encourage you to come on out. It's going to be a warmer day today. So if you like that those warm temperatures, today was probably a good day to come out until later. I know there's supposed to be some storms. But the trails are still open. We just ask again that you respect others and give yourselves 6 feet social distancing, so that way everybody has enough space out on our trails. As I've mentioned before, if you've joined us before, we're not doing our live programs right now. We haven't done any live programs in person since middle of March. And as a nonprofit, the Troy Nature Society, we are the ones who do the programs for the Stage Nature Center. We rely very heavily on our funding from those programs, so we don't have that funding coming in right now. There is a donate button as part of this live Facebook post, so you can donate through this live Facebook post if you have the means to do so. You can also donate on our website, stagenaturecenter.org, or you can donate on our Facebook page after this live stream is over, of course, if you have the means. And thank you to everyone who has donated to us, who has supported us. Just by being here today, you are all hoping to support us as well. So thank you for joining in for these live Facebook posts. And we appreciate everyone's support. So thank you again for that. So again, today we're going to be talking about Michigan's semi-aquatic mammals. I'm going to be going back and forth a little bit here between the video and between the video camera, the videos that I have in the video camera, so I can show you some things in person and show you some things on screen. So I'm going to show you a screen here. And this, I had this up at the beginning when you guys were all checking in. And this shows the pictures of the 4 semi-aquatic mammals that you're going to find in Michigan. I say semi-aquatic because they do come out on land. They're not strictly in the water. So they're not fully aquatic, but they are semi-aquatic. The top left picture that you see there is the American beaver. Then the one to the right of that is the muskrat. And then just below the muskrat is the North American river otter. And then to the left of that is the mink. And we're going to talk about these 4 animals today and where you can see them in Michigan, and the ones that you can see here at the Stage Nature Center. But this gives you an idea of what they look like. One of the things that makes it difficult to identify them is that they all have kind of a brownish to light black or very dark brown and gray color fur. And when they're in the water, they can be very hard to distinguish. But I will give you some tips to distinguish between them. There's also some size differences, so that way you can tell the difference between them. They also eat a wide variety of foods. So I'm going to switch back to the camera here, and I'm going to show you a couple things on camera. So one of the first animals that I'll show you here is the muskrat. So here is the muskrat. It's not a rat. Now it is a rodent, but it's not a rat. One of the reasons they probably call it a muskrat is because of that tail. So this is a semi-aquatic mammal that you can see here in Michigan, and we do see them here at the Stage Nature Center from time to time. The next one I'm going to show you is the mink. So here is the mink. I'm going to turn it so you can, there we go, it's opposite. So what I'm showing you guys here, just so you know, these are our, what we call mounts or taxidermy. They are real, they're not alive. We did not kill them to have them as mounts. Since we are a nature center, what happens is people will donate them to us. Maybe they'll find them after they've already died and they'll donate them to us so that way we can then share them with you. Some of them are in better shape than others, so some of them do look a little strange. And sometimes after being in this condition for a long time, the colors of their fur can change. So mink do tend to have a little bit of a darker fur. There is a variety of coloration in their fur, but usually it's a little bit darker than what we see here. So this may have just been some discoloration from sunlight as we've had it inside, or after it died. So sometimes these colors can change. So this is the mink. And again, let me show you the muskrat. So here is the muskrat, and here is the mink. So the mink, one of the ways we can identify the mink compared to the muskrat is that a mink has a much more slender body. They look kind of like a weasel or a ferret, if anybody has a ferret as a pet, and they move around that way. So you can see how kind of thin and slender their body is. And that's one way you can tell the difference between the muskrat and the mink. They both have very similar coloration to their fur, but they have very different shapes in their body. And the way they swim is a little bit different. And here just a little bit, I'm going to show you some videos that you can see of these animals swimming. So the tails, you can see here that the mink tail does not have a lot of fur on it. I'm sorry, the muskrat. This is the muskrat. The muskrat tail does not have a lot of fur on it, whereas the mink tail does have fur on it. Now, I was calling these semi-aquatic mammals. I should back up just a moment for those of you who are learning about mammals. Mammals are animals that have fur or hair on their body. Some of them have a lot of fur. Some of them do not have much fur at all. Like we do have mammals that live in the oceans, like the whale and the dolphins. They do have tiny hairs on their body. But another thing that makes a mammal is that they are warm-blooded, so they can make their own body heat just like you and I can. And they do that by eating every day, and that helps them create energy, and that helps them warm their bodies. Mammals also give birth to live young, for the most part. There is the platypus, for those of you that know about that animal, but the platypus that doesn't give birth to live young. Most mammals give birth to live young, which means that when they're born, they're moving around. They're not born by laying eggs. That's another distinction between mammals and other animals like reptiles and amphibians. So today we're talking about Michigan's semi-aquatic mammals, and these are mammals that spend a lot of time in the water, and then they do spend some of their time on land. These mammals are usually very good at swimming, so some of them have really great webbed feet. Their tails are designed to help them move through the water as well, and so is their fur. Their fur is also helps them to move through the water. So let's see here. I'm going to try to show you with the camera here. I'm going to turn it a little bit. And what you're going to see is a really big animal that I can't quite lift up and bring in front of the camera because it's too big, so I'm going to try to turn the camera to it. But that right there is the beaver. So the beaver is a much larger semi-aquatic mammal compared to the muskrat or the mink. There's the mink, and then there's the, let me turn the muskrat around so you're not just looking at its butt. There we go. Okay, so there's the muskrat right there. So the beaver is quite a bit bigger compared to the muskrat and the mink. Another difference is, especially between the beaver and the muskrat, earlier I showed you the tail. Now I'm going to show you the butt again. Here's the tail of the muskrat. So it's very thin and slender, whereas beavers have these really wide tails. And in just a little bit, I'm going to show you a few things through some videos so you can see why beavers have those big wide tails. One of those things is that it does definitely help them swim. Beavers spend a lot of time in the water. Sometimes people get beavers confused with groundhogs. Now, groundhogs are not semi-aquatic. You might see them near the water, or they might take a small bath. But groundhogs actually have, they also have a very slender, furry tail compared to the beaver. This is one great way to tell the beaver from other animals like groundhogs. So this mount that we have here it's an old mount, so it looks a little different from what a live beaver would look like. So I am going to show you some videos so that way you can see the difference. But you might be able to see there its webbed feet. So semi-aquatic mammals or animals that live in the water tend to have webbed feet. And so they have extra skin in between their toes and their fingers that helps them swim, kind of like if we were to wear some flippers. Humans are not the greatest swimmers. Some of us try. I was a competitive swimmer myself when I was younger in high school. But, sometimes we would put fins on our feet when we were practicing to help us strengthen our legs. So animals that are meant to live in the water, unlike humans, they have parts of their body that are designed to be in the water. And so they have flippers that are built into their body, or they have webbed feet that are built into their body that help them with that. Okay, I'm going to come back over here. And I'm going to take this camera with me. I'm going to show you one other animal here. So you're going to see the Nature Center behind me here for just a second. Hopefully this doesn't make you dizzy. This mount was a little bit too large for me to try to pick up and bring over and show you on camera, but this is the North American river otter. Right there. Let's see if I can turn a little bit. So there we go. So that is the North American river otter. And they are also another semi-aquatic mammal that you're going to see here in Michigan. Okay. Trying to do this with my laptop camera, and so it was a little bit hard to show you that mount, but I'm going to show you some videos that will let you see these animals closer up. So I'm going to show you a few other things before I show you the videos here. So I mentioned that these semi-aquatic mammals they tend to have special fur, and their fur, this is the fur from a mink. So you can see again how long and slender that body is. There's the tail. And if you guys were able to feel this, you would be able to feel how soft it is. And semi-aquatic mammals tend to have oils in their fur. They usually have a lot of different lengths of fur that help them to keep their body kind of waterproof. So that way they're not staying really wet. It kind of protects their body, kind of like a wetsuit would. Here is the fur of a mink. So again, I mean, this is just the fur, but minks are not quite as slender and long. Or I'm sorry, this is muskrat. I keep saying the wrong thing. Muskrat. This is a muskrat, and their bodies are not quite as slender and long as a mink. And then, for comparison, here is the fur of a beaver. So remember I said beavers are quite a bit larger than minks and muskrats. And this is the fur from a beaver. And I don't know if you can see this here in the camera, but you can see these different layers of fur. They have these really long, kind of thin furs on the outside, and then they have this really thick fur underneath that. And again, these different layers help them to be waterproof, so that way they can live most of the time in the water. A couple other things I want to show you is their skulls. So I'm going to start off with this one. So this is the skull of a beaver. So beavers are rodents, just like muskrats. Let me show you the muskrat skull here. So they have those two front teeth that are great for gnawing. Beavers are known especially for making dams and for cutting down trees. So these front teeth are great for gnawing. And they're omnivores, which not omnivores. I keep saying the wrong thing. Herbivores, which means that they only eat plants. They don't eat animals. And that's what their teeth are designed for. They don't have big canines, but they have a lot of great teeth in the back that are meant for grinding. Same for the muskrat here. You can see those teeth that are great for grinding. Now, something like the river otter or the mink, these are not herbivores. River otter and mink are actually primarily carnivores. They will eat some plant matter, but for the most part, mink, this little animal that I showed you here, not very big, they eat other animals. And you can see the difference in their skull. So this is the skull of a river otter. And you can see those big canines up front. So this is different from the muskrat, because the muskrat has those big incisors, doesn't have those big canines, whereas the river otter has these big canines that are meant for ripping up meat. And that's one way we can tell what they eat and how they're different from each other, is by looking at the skull and by looking at the teeth. So that's how you can tell. That's one way you can tell what an animal eats, is by looking at their skulls. Okay. I'm going to switch us over here now to back to the presentation. And before I get started on that, I'm going to just check really quickly and see if I have any questions. Again, if I miss your question right now, I will show you, or I will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. I'm trying to bring my other device back up here so I can see those comments, although the internet is still not wanting to work that well. So I will do my best to try to answer your questions, but it may be after the program that I'm answering your questions. Okay. So let's see. Let me bring the presentation back up here. Give me just a moment. Okay. So these videos most of these videos that I brought together today are videos that I found on YouTube. A lot of the videos that I have shown for these programs have been video that I have taken. I could not find the video that I had. I actually had some great video of when I was out in Alaska of beavers building their lodge, and I could not find that video in my files for the life of me. Hopefully I didn't lose it somewhere. So a lot of these videos that I got were from YouTube, and you'll see that there is credit given to the person's YouTube channel, so whoever I got it from, you'll see here in the PowerPoint slideshow. So that way we can see some different videos of these animals. So this first video I'm going to show you is of the beaver. While we watch these videos, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about these animals. The American beaver is not an animal we're going to see here at the Stage Nature Center. Beavers do like to have a lot of space, and they do we do have the Rouge River that comes through here at the Stage Nature Center, but the part that comes through here is a pretty small part of it. Here is some nighttime footage of a beaver. So beavers have a really interesting story. Beavers were actually almost extinct in a lot of areas. And it's been nearly 150 years since the beaver has made its presence known along the Detroit and Rouge rivers. So these beavers actually had a lot of problems with trappers. You know, a lot of people like to trap beavers because of that fur. A lot of semi-aquatic mammals. Oh, you can see the beaver pulling off some parts of the tree here. So a lot of semi-aquatic mammals are an animal that people like to trap and catch for their fur because of how soft they are. So beavers also had trouble with toxins in the water. So for years, it was really hard to see beavers in a lot of areas. But they are making a comeback, and which is awesome. They're making a comeback in some areas. Now, unfortunately, some people do find beavers to be a bit of a nuisance because they change the flow of the water by making dams. And sometimes they cut down trees that people don't want trees. This is what a beaver lodge looks like. So lodges are their homes. And this is just the upper part of the lodge that you can see sticking above the water. They actually have this whole kind of big hotel, you could kind of say, underneath, or home underneath the water, and they have different rooms, different doorways, and they live inside these lodges in groups. This is showing a dam. So they do dam up water so that way they can create more of a pond-like area, an area where it's slow moving, where they can have their lodge. And they do play a big role in ecosystems because they help change the flow of water. And in some ecosystems, in areas where beavers are coming back, they're actually seeing different types of plants flourish because of how they've changed the water flow back to the way it used to be, maybe. And we see different types of plants flourishing along those areas, and that also helps other native animals that live even on shore. So beavers are excellent swimmers. I showed that tail earlier. Here in this video, you can see that it's showing this this big black nose, a hairless nose of a beaver, and that's one way you can tell the difference between other animals that you'd see swimming in the water. They do also have that broad, flat head. Now, there is a non-native mammal called the nutria, and as they're showing here, they have a white hairy nose. They've not been found in Michigan yet, but they are an invasive species that we are trying to keep an eye out for. They are native to South America, and they're hosts for several pathogens and parasites that can infect people, pets, and livestock. This is a common muskrat, and this is another animal we're going to talk about today. You can see the difference as it's swimming here between the beaver. You can see they're saying it waves its tail while it swims, so it kind of pushes it back and forth, and that's one way you can tell the muskrat as it's swimming. All right, let me show you the next video that we have. So this next video is going to show you a characteristic about beavers that I really enjoy, and I guess you could say I enjoy it because the first time I encountered it, when I was younger and I was first starting in this field and I was learning about beavers, I was out by a pond at night and we were looking for a beaver lodge, and I wasn't seeing the lodge, but all of a sudden we heard this big splash and slap in the water, and it was so close to where we were standing that it really made me jump. It really took me by surprise. And this is how I learned about one of the beaver's defenses, and I'm going to show you here in this video. So this video was taken by somebody that had their dog running along the shore. His name is Garth Croker. And you'll see here what this beaver does in response. There it is. Response to the dogs. There it goes. So beavers slap the water with their tail. Now, if you're walking right along the water, especially at night, or you don't see the beaver, and all of a sudden you hear that, it is pretty startling. And so what this beaver was trying to do is it was trying to distract the dog and take its attention away from the lodge, from where the other beavers would be residing. So while we're watching this, another thing I wanted to share with you is that beavers are the largest rodent that are found in North America, and they can weigh over 60 pounds. Oh, there goes that splashing with the tail again. They're going to show it in slow motion here. There you go. So it really is quite effective at scaring off an animal or distracting it from another part of the pond where the beaver might not want you to get closer to its lodge. So their tail is flat and it's muscular, very flexible, and it serves as a prop when the beaver is gnawing through a tree. The tail also functions as kind of like a four-way water rudder.
No, it's right here. He's just not quite sure where.
It's going to show here in slow motion again, this beaver using that tail to slap the water and scare
Eagles.
off. Oh, why do beavers have that paddle tail?
She'll
Oh,
slap you.
well, I think I just answered that. That it has to do with it serves as a prop when they're gnawing through a tree, and it helps them. It serves as kind of like a four-way rudder that helps them move through the water. Okay. So that's a little bit about the beaver. Again, if you get to see a beaver, you're probably going to see them in areas where there's more water. I know on Belle Isle they have seen them, and actually a few years ago the DNR was facing a problem with the beavers on Belle Isle because they were getting pretty pretty busy gnawing down trees and kind of changing the water flow a little bit. So they are a native animal and they are protected, but I know that that was something that they were that they were a bit concerned about. So you can see them out in places like Belle Isle. Okay. Next animal we're going to talk about here is the North American river otter. This video was taken from the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens, and I'm sure if a lot of you have been to zoos, this is one of my favorite animals to watch, to really see how they swim. Their bodies are very streamlined. They're meant for spending time in the water. They seem to be very playful animals as well. So these river otters can actually live in freshwater and coastal marine habitats, including rivers, lakes, marshes, swamps, and estuaries. And they can tolerate a variety of environments, including colder latitudes and warmer latitudes in North America. But they do seem to be sensitive to pollution, unfortunately. And in areas where there's a lot of pollution, they tend to disappear from those areas, which is one reason why if you get to see a river otter in a certain area, you're very fortunate, and that usually means that the area is cleaner and isn't as polluted. River otters are mostly carnivores, so they do eat other animals, and they like to eat fish, for example. I'm going to go to the next video here that we have. This was by Devin Tatro, also from YouTube. I'm going to turn down the volume here just a little bit. So these are some great slow motion videos that this person took of river otters. And again, it's really hard to get video of river otters because they are kind of secretive. They like to live in areas where there's not a lot going on. And again, they like to live in areas that are cleaner and not as polluted. They tend to live alone or in family groups, and typically these family groups are females and they're young. I mentioned earlier that they are known as playful animals, and you'll see them playing with each other. You'll see them sliding in the mud and snow, burrowing through the snow. They're really a neat animal to watch. And again, that's one of the reasons why it's my favorite animal to watch when you go to the zoo. So river otters are actually able to stay under the water for up to 8 minutes, which is pretty amazing. Again, these are animals that are meant for the water environment. They're also pretty fast on land, and they can run pretty quickly. But you can see them during the daytime. They do like to hunt mostly at night, but you can see them at all times of the day. Now, if you've ever heard of a river otter making sounds, they do have a lot of different sounds that they use to communicate with each other. They use whistles, they use growls, chuckles, screams. They also talk with each other, or they communicate with each other using scent marks. River otters can actually live to be about 8 to 9 years in the wild. In captivity, they've been known to live 21 years. And here's a group of river otters. You can see their fur. You can see that really shiny aspect to that fur, and that's that waterproofing. It's those oils in their fur that's helping to keep that water away from their body. River otter, they have a very similar body style to mink, but they're much larger than minks are. So I mentioned earlier that they eat other animals. They'll eat fish, they'll eat amphibians like frogs and toads, they'll eat turtles, crayfish, crabs. You may have seen video of them like crushing the crab shell of a crab before, and other invertebrates. Sometimes they'll also eat bird eggs and other small terrestrial animals, which means that sometimes they do come onto land and eat animals that are found on land. And then sometimes they eat aquatic plants too. How can you tell a groundhog from a muskrat? So groundhogs are quite a bit larger than a muskrat. If you see it in the water, it's not a groundhog. It's most likely a muskrat. If you see it swimming through the water, you're not going to see a groundhog swimming through the water. Again, groundhogs are typically larger than muskrats. Muskrats, their tails aren't nearly as furry as a groundhog. They do have some fur on their tails, but that's one reason it's called a muskrat, because their tails look more like a rat. So, speaking of muskrats, now we're going to talk about muskrats. And this is a very common animal. We have seen them here at the Stage Nature Center before, especially around the pond is where you're usually going to see them. And this is some video that a gentleman named Phil shared on YouTube. So muskrats, they like to live in places like swamps, marshes, wetlands, and they're found throughout quite a bit of the United States. They're found from northern America to the Gulf Coast and the Mexican border. And they like locations with at least 4 to 6 feet of water. But they can be found near ponds and lakes and swamps, but their favorite locations are areas like marshes, where the water level stays constant. They don't build these huge lodges like the beaver does, but they do build small muskrat. Build small lodges that they will live in. And these lodges, these nests, are formed by like piles of vegetation. They're placed on top of a good base, for example, like a tree stump, generally in 15 to 40 inches of water. And I had an example here that we put together. If I remember at the end of the presentation, I will show you what that looks like. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll switch over to the video now so you can see it, since I'm talking about it. Okay. So just to show you really quickly, let's see here. If I can grab it and bring it in front of the camera. This is our recreation of a muskrat nest, or lodge, you could say. And so they use a lot of grasses. They build it up on a flat platform, kind of like a tree stump. And that's what they look like. Not nearly as large as a beaver lodge. Beaver lodge I would not be able to put on a little platform like this. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to switch back to our video. So muskrats, when they're swimming, and you'll see it again here in this video, when they're swimming, they do use kind of like a waving motion with their tail. So their tails are not nearly as big and flat as a beaver. Oh, you can see it right there. You can see that tail kind of going back and forth. It looks like a wave. So muskrats, they are mainly vegetarians. You can see a lot of video here of the muskrats chewing on things. But they will eat some animals as well. They are primarily herbivores. One of the best ways that they get away from predators is by jumping into the water and swimming away really fast. They are excellent swimmers. And here in just a moment, there should be a part in the video here that shows you how fast underwater these muskrats can swim. But that's one reason it's hard to get video and picture of them, because they are so fast. So again, they're not rats, but they are rodents, just like beavers are rodents. Their bodies are a length of about 12.5 inches. And like I said, their tail doesn't have nearly as much fur on it as like a groundhog. Their tail is kind of flat and scaly. Here's the video I was talking about. If you watch it, oh, there it goes. So they are excellent swimmers. And you could see it swimming really fast there. Let's see here. So muskrats, their average lifespan is about 3 years in the wild. In captivity, they've been known to live up to 10 years, which is pretty high, but it has happened. So muskrats do tend to live in large family groups, and they do tend to have definite territories. And they've been known that if their conditions are overcrowded, the females will actually kick out their offspring to make the living conditions a little bit better. All right, I'm going to check here before I keep going on, see if I had any more questions that I missed. I don't think I do. Okay. So the last animal we're going to talk about, oh, actually not the last animal, I'm sorry, this is the third animal, is it is the last animal. We've already talked about the other three. Is the mink. And mink are also very secretive. They're not easy to see. So this is some video that I found on YouTube again from Adam. His name is Adam Kapowski. I do have some video here at the end that I'm going to show you that I actually got here at the Stage Nature Center. It's not the greatest video, so that's why I wanted to show you some video of someone else that got some pretty clear video of them. But again, they have a very similar shape to the North American river otter. They are mostly carnivorous, like the North American river otter, so they eat mostly other animals. But even though these mink, they are found throughout North America, they tend to like areas that are forested and are in close proximity to water. So they do like streams, ponds, and lakes. They do like to have some rocky areas along the waterway. They are excellent swimmers, but again, they do eat other animals, and they actually have been known to attack animals like muskrats, which is one of the other semi-aquatic animals that we just talked about. For minks, they will usually live around 10 years. That's about the maximum life expectancy of a mink. They are pretty solitary animals in comparison to muskrats and beavers. And males are usually kind of intolerant of one another. They're mostly active at night, especially near dawn and dusk. That's another reason that we don't get to see them as much. They do have pretty adorable faces, though. And again, they do kind of look like a ferret or a weasel. So I mentioned that they're carnivores. They are predators of other small animals, but their diet changes depending on the season. So during the summer, they like to eat things like crayfish and small frogs, along with small mammals such as shrews and rabbits. They also like to eat mice, and I did mention that sometimes they will eat muskrat. We did find a muskrat out here once. Unfortunately, it looked like it had been attacked by probably a mink. And so they're not too terribly different in size. The mink again, is longer and more slender, but they are carnivores. So they can catch other animals like a muskrat. And during the winter time, they primarily prey on mammals that are still going to be seen. They're not going to be eating things like frogs and crayfish during the winter because those types of animals aren't going to be available. All right, I'm going to show you the last video here. This last video is a video that I took when I was out with a school group on our trails. This was actually during March a couple years ago, and which is during our maple syrup time. And again, I was out with a school group and we were looking along the river. This is the Rouge River that comes through the Stage Nature Center. We don't have wide areas of the Rouge River, but it does come through here. And we were so fortunate to get to see this little mink running along the shoreline here with this school group. So you'll have to watch carefully when you're watching the video. Just to give you a tip, look down. We're looking at the big tree that's on the far side of the river, and you're looking down towards the roots to see this mink kind of running through. It blends in very well, but at one point it does go into the roots and it kind of peeks out at us, and then it runs back out of the roots, which you'll be able to see it really a lot better when it comes back out of the roots. So just a few tips as you're watching this video so you have a better chance of seeing it. It is kind of fast, and I apologize, it's not the greatest quality. I was out with the group, so this is video footage taken on my cell phone, but I couldn't pass it up a chance to take it. And the kids were so excited too, just like I was. I felt like I was one of the kids in the school group because I was so excited. So there it is in the middle of the tree, or in the bottom of the tree, in the roots. And it's peeking out. You can barely see it, but it is peeking out there. It's inside of the roots. Oh, see, there it is. Peeking its head out. Oh, and there it comes running out from the roots. And you'll see it run along the shoreline here. So if you see a mink, this is usually how you're going to see it. And it quickly scurries away. So again, that's one reason it's so hard to see mink, is they're very shy. They're more solitary than muskrats and beavers. They're fast, and they tend to have a bit of a darker fur that blends in very well. So that was a really quick glimpse that we got of the mink, but it was still really exciting. So mink and muskrats are the two mammals, semi-aquatic mammals, that we're likely to see here at the Stage Nature Center. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the camera here. All right, and I'm going to double check and see if there were any other questions that I missed. Let's see. Just kind of quickly looking through it. So if I missed your question, I will go back through and answer questions later. Why do beavers build dams? I think I answered that question, but so they could create a calm area of water surrounding their lodge, because if it's a fast-moving stream, they're not going to be able to keep that lodge up, that home where they live. It's going to be destroyed by the fast-moving stream. So they build these dams to create a calm area of water on one side, and then that also gives them vegetation to eat and a place for them to live. Okay, so I think I answered most of the questions. Again, if I missed your question, I will go back through at the end after the presentation is over here and make sure I answer those questions. But I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed learning about the semi-aquatic mammals that you can see here in Michigan. If you do get to see them, they're a lot of fun to see. They're not as easy to see as some of the other mammals that are going to live on land. But like I said, you can come to the Stage Nature Center here and possibly see something like a mink or a muskrat. We don't have beaver here currently. We probably won't have beaver here. They need a little bit more habitat for that. Same for the North American river otter. They need a lot of expanse of habitat, natural habitat for them to live. But there are areas in Michigan where you might have the opportunity to see them. One of the things that you can do to help these semi-aquatic mammals is to help keep these waterways clean. It is so important for them, for their survival. And the thing about putting pollutants in the water, is that when you put it in one part of the river, especially in areas like where we're at, we are at the headwaters of the Rouge River, which means that any pollutants you put in the headwaters, so up where we're at, will travel downstream to other areas of the Rouge River and can find their way to areas like Dearborn, for example. So we play a very important role here at the Stage Nature Center in helping to keep these waters as pollutant-free as possible. So Friends of the Rouge is a great nonprofit organization that helps to keep these waterways clean. They also help to monitor the Rouge River for pollutants, and they monitor it for wildlife and invertebrates like bugs and things like that to know how the health of the stream is going. So you can help by not putting things into the water like garbage or chemicals, because that can travel through the stream and really impact a lot of wildlife from the very bottom of the food chain all the way to the top. So helping to keep those streams clean and free of pollutants is so important. And if you want to find out how you can help in a bigger way, you can join groups like Friends of the Rouge River for a river cleanup or for monitoring of different types of wildlife you can see in the Rouge River, and that helps to give us an indication of how healthy the stream is. So Friends of the Rouge is a great group that you can join if you live near some other rivers like Clinton River. There's other groups that do the same thing as Friends of the Rouge. Clinton River has the Clinton River Watershed Council, and there's a lot of areas have these types of groups that focus on the rivers that go through their area. So just find what that local group is and see how you can help with that. So I hope you all enjoyed learning about these animals today, and I hope you're enjoying this weather. Like I said, it's getting warm outside today, so maybe you'll come out on the trails. If I don't see you, I hope to see you in the future, especially when we reopen. Otherwise, I might see you out on the trails. I will be doing another program this coming Friday, live on Facebook at 1 p.m., and we'll announce what that is here in the next couple days. So look for that on Facebook or in our email. Thank you for your support, and I can't wait to see you guys again, especially when we reopen. So I hope everybody is staying healthy, stay safe out there, respect each other, love each other, and I look forward to seeing you. All right, take care. Bye.